two different ways to finish the hat. So the things that you'll need are your rectangle of fabric that you made. If you're watching this video before you watch the others, I will post a written pattern for this in the description for this video. So you'll need your rectangle of fabric here that you made that's going to be the hat. And this is called a tapestry or a darning needle. You can get it at a craft store. And it's just bigger than a regular sewing needle. We want this really big eye here for being able to thread yarn through instead of thread. And the last thing you'll need is just a pair of scissors for clipping the ends. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is thread our needle, and we do it a little bit differently with yarn than we do with thread and a sewing needle. With a sewing needle, you would just, whoa, my hands are way out of the screen there. You would just take your end of your thread and just pass it into the eye of the needle, but we can't do that with yarn because see how fuzzy that is. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a clean edge that can pass through the eye of the needle. So we're going to take our tapestry needle and fold it over, or fold the yarn over the tapestry needle like this. And then I'm going to pinch it really tight with the pads of my fingers there. And then I'm going to pinch it tight and then slide the needle out. And you can see this little flat piece of yarn here. And then I'm going to rest my needle, the eye of my needle, right on top of that little flat piece of yarn. And as I push on the needle, I roll my fingers out. And if I don't quite get enough yarn in there, I can back my fingers up and keep pushing. But you can see that that pushes the yarn up through the eye of the needle. And I'm just going to grab those little bits that came through and slide that yarn right through. And that's how we thread yarn. That's the easiest way. So now we're going to start stitching this hat. So I'm going to take my fabric, and you can see the stripes of it are running up and down, and that's how I want it. I don't want them going side to side. I want them going up and down. And then I'm going to fold so that these edges meet together first. So again, not this way, but this way. Some people say hamburger style instead of hot dog if I was folding paper. All right, and now we're going to start stitching. I'm going to try and come a little closer to the camera here so that you can see what I'm doing. But right here I have the stitches of my fabric. Remember in the last videos we talked about how the top of each stitch looked like a teardrop. So we're going to be working through the back loop of this teardrop and the front loop of this teardrop. And we're going to be doing what's called a whip stitch. So I already put my needle through this one right here and pulled it tight. And now I'm going to put my needle under the front loop of this one and pull tight. Okay, now you can see it's attached right here. Okay, so I'm going to whip stitch all the way along this edge. So into the back loop of this one, of this next stitch, and the front loop of this stitch. And pull tight. And again over here on the next one, into the back loop of this stitch and the front loop of this stitch, and pull it tight. And I'm going to keep going all the way down to the end. So I've got to stitch together all 25 stitches of both sides of this hat. Okay, so I did this. Now I'm going to do the next one. And the next one here. And this next one. And this next one. And the front and the back. And the front Do you see how my yarn is starting to wrap up on itself here? Sometimes I just lift my work up and just let my needle hang down and untwist itself. And then I keep going. Okay, through the back and the front. Through the back and the front. Just keep stitching. Wish I had something exciting to say for you, but you just get to boringly watch me stitch. The next stitch. We're getting closer to the end now. We're a little over halfway. This just takes a few minutes, and that's okay. And if you feel like you're not doing a very good job and it doesn't look nice, it's okay to just undo it and start again. It's really easy to just unpick it. I'm going to have to drop my needle again. Okay, almost to the end. Just a few more to go here. Two more to go. And you can see these are matching right up. So this is the second to last one here, and then the last one on both sides. Okay, now what I'm going to do, now that I'm to the end, you can see it's all stitched closed there. You see that? Okay, so I'm going to just take my yarn here, my needle, and I'm going to find any little loop around this area and pass it back through. And you see how I have a loop of yarn right here. I'm going to pass it through and reach into the loop to grab my needle. Sorry, you couldn't see through my hand there. And do you see how that makes a knot? So that's knotted off. And then I'm going to turn my work this way. And do you see how I have now these loops right here? I'm going to pass it up inside of those loops, my needle. See, just under this yarn. But when I look at the other side of my hat on the inside here, I can't see the needle as much. Do you see how it's just going in between the yarn and not behind it? So we're just going in between these. It's as far as my needle will go, so I'm just gonna pull that out and then do a little more. Okay, and that has hidden our tail. Now I'm going to take my scissors and just cut this yarn right here. Okay, and now I have a tube. You see that? So exciting. All right, now we're going to work with the top. And I know I said that I'm going to show you 2 ways to finish this hat in this video, but I think we'll just do 2 videos instead. So I'm going to finish showing you how to do this one, and then we'll do the other way. So now you see my little seam is on the side here. It's all folded right in half. Here's where I stitched it, just right along the side here. So I'm going to thread my needle again. So pinch in here, put the eye of the needle on, and just roll it up in there. And then grab those pieces and pull through. Okay, loaded and ready to go. Okay, I have my tube here, and I'm going to work from right to left, and I am just going to do pretty much exactly the same thing that I just did, except look how jagged and weird this is. So all I'm going to do is just sandwich it together and just do my best to find places to stitch through. So let me just focus it a little bit better here. All right, so this time I think I'm going to come through the top just because it's a little easier for me to see this time. But I'm just going to find places just in the top here to just whip stitch through. And I'm going to try and keep my stitching fairly close together. And I'm going to do this all the way across. Can you see why we needed longer tails? It's because if I hadn't done long tails, by the time I got to the end of this, I would run out of yarn. And honestly, I might run out of yarn. If I do that, it's okay. I can just cut another piece of yarn and just tie it on here somewhere. Hopefully I'll have enough though. Just all the way across here. That stitch went in a strange place, so I can shift it over with my finger. My baby is crying in the other room. He wants me to get him, so I'm trying to finish this up here so I can go rescue the sad, sad baby. And you can see where these loops are across. It's not pretty, but it won't matter very much because we're going to turn this inside out. Just going to keep on going. Keep on stitching. Just right along the top here. I keep getting out of frame. Sorry about that. Almost there. I'm running out of yarn. I hope I make it. Oh, I'm just going to make it. That's great. Okay, all the way to this last corner. Okay, look at that. I just have the tiniest little tail left. So I've stitched all the way across now. So I've stitched up this side and across the top. Now I'm going to knot this off right here, just around some yarn. If I don't have a long enough tail like this, oh my gosh, I have to hang on to the loop here so that I can pass my yarn back through. It doesn't quite want to go sometimes. Here we go. And now I'm just going to hide this end back in here. Just going to shove it in there. So normally I would be using the needle the other direction, but since I have such a tiny tail left, I'm having to use my needle backwards. And that's another reason I like that nice blunt tip, is in case I get in a situation like that. Okay, so here's the end. And if I just pull on my yarn here, it's just going to pop out. Okay, so there we go. It was a tube. So first we started with a rectangle that we made into a tube by stitching the two ends together. And then I stitched along the top. And now I'm going to turn it inside out, which is going to be right side out. And I'm going to leave a little cuff right here. And look at that cute hat. Look how cute that is. So we could add in the future some pom-poms on the sides here, or tassels. And you could put a little flower or some buttons or things here.